Hey, Doc Testa here, Chief Health and Wellness Consultant with Pine Pollen Superfoods and trained for longevity. Today I want to talk about the carnivore diet. And first off, let me tell you, I'm not a carnivore diet expert. I am curious though, and I have been for about the last year. When I first heard about this a year ago, I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous and it's crazy. And it does, in my opinion, come with some risks. That said, I have seen some positive upside to the carnivore diet. It is largely an elimination diet. You are removing everything from your diet except animal nutrients, right? That's animal muscle in the form of steaks, that can be bacon, but really it should be nose to tail, and it should include organ meat as well. So a good carnivore diet does include everything from nose to tail. You're not just eating ribeyes. So, you're eating egg yolks, and you're eating animal protein. What have I seen? I have seen really some remarkable things because we are eliminating so much stuff out of the diet: junk food, processed foods, grains, certain vegetables potentially high in lectins, nightshade plants, and you're not stimulating insulin or glucose in the least. So, or I should say very, very minimally. Protein can convert into carbohydrate and stimulate insulin, but really not to much extent compared to eating like pasta and junk food. So we see this work on an elimination basis. You're getting all that stuff out. You're down regulating insulin and glucose. And what have I seen? People lose a lot of weight. Diabetes or insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome or pre-diabetes gets completely resolved. I've seen this happen. People lose a lot of weight because you're not stimulating the storage hormone in the metabolic process of storing excess calories by stimulating glucose and particularly insulin, which is the storage hormone. So I've seen a lot of weight loss. But even more interestingly, I've seen autoimmune conditions go into remission, get resolved, completely go away by, again, I think because we're eliminating a lot. I said it up front, I'm not a carnivore diet expert here. I've never done it. And originally I was very close-minded to it, but in learning more about it, I can see maybe for some people, not all, for short bursts, maybe 1 week at a time, second week, see how you're doing. I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending it as a lifestyle, possibly maybe a month at a time, just to really reduce weight and insulin and glucose and potentially turn the tide on autoimmune conditions like psoriasis or rheumatoid arthritis or eczema, or I've seen it improve vitiligo, to some extent, other autoimmune conditions. So what are there? There's 3 types, and I had to write these down. So largely what you're getting in here is fat, eggs, mostly egg yolks, and muscle meat. I would encourage the organ meats as well, because within organ meat and collagen are other nutrients that you're not getting because you're not eating vegetables. Omega-3s, so you could be getting fish roe, fish, and things of that nature, and salt. Good, high-quality salt. That is essentially a nose-to-tail carnivore-type diet. Also, there's different ways. There's zero-carb carnivore, which is really the high-fat proteins that largely are in those animal proteins that I mentioned. You can add fats like butter, and maybe some like salmon roe and things of that nature, potentially even coconut oil. There's another form as well called carnivore keto, which is largely everything I just mentioned, nose to tail, plus limited amounts of fibrous fruits and vegetables. Now that could be broccoli, very low carb things, cabbage, very small, and I mean like half a cup, quarter cup of blueberries, maybe a quarter of a sour apple, things like that, and added oils. So you could add olive oil, you could add coconut oil. You could add MCT oil to that. And then there's the zero carb keto type diet, which is everything I mentioned in carnivore keto, with some sugar alternatives, right, that aren't going to stimulate anything related to carbohydrates. That would be erythritols, mannitols, stevia, etc. Although I don't know what you would be eating those with, where you would need those. But interestingly, I'm looking at performance. If you're going to do this, macros tend to be 0.7 to 0.9 grams per pound of body weight, and fat to protein ratios. So fat would be similar. Performance, you want 1.5 to 2 grams of fat per 1 gram of protein. Weight gain, you would want 1.5 grams of fat per 1 gram of protein. Weight loss, you would want 1 to 0.75 grams of fat per 1 gram of protein. I'm not an expert at this. Now, here's my reluctance, right? All that protein upregulates mTOR. mTOR is the growth gene pathway that can cause muscle growth, and when I see people doing this pretty well, they look like they put on a lot of good muscle. You got to work out if you're going to do this. But mTOR can upregulate cancer-related genes, and that's my one concern. So I can't say this is going to be a good lifestyle idea. I do think maybe, and I'll experiment with it with myself, and when I do, I'm going to do pre-labs and post-labs, and I am going to take it 1 week at a time. How do I feel? Week 2, how do I feel? What's going on in my body? But I won't do it for longer than a month. So, and I will eat organ meat. So I'll keep you posted when I do this. Anyway, all I can say is before you consider this, make sure you learn about it. It's not just ribeyes and bacon. Make sure you get some measurements. What is your cholesterol? What are your lipids doing? What is your insulin? What is your IGF-1 levels? Work with somebody who is an expert at this. And again, it's not me, but these are some considerations with the carnivore diet. I hope you find this helpful. I hope really all it does is encourage you to research it more. It is new. There is no long-term research. There are no studies on this that show over the long haul this is a beneficial thing to do. Over the short term, quite possibly. Don't just believe everything you see on Twitter, because that's not for everybody. You got to know what works right for you. There is no one diet. There is no shortcut. You can't buy a black belt, and you just got to do the work. And that means eating right, getting sleep, working out, and having some form of mindfulness practice. So I hope you find this helpful. Tune in to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.